So, this movie is astounding. Searching is one of those films that shouldn't work. A missing child mystery thriller told entirely through computer and phone screens sounds like the dramatic equivalent of the gimmicky as hell Unfriended franchise. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie once and thinking it might have even been some kind of link into that series before the title was shown, and shortly after seeing the preview ad, I had all but forgotten that this movie even existed until this past weekend. I almost didn't catch this one. It just so happened that after seeing The Nun, I was at a cinema I don't often get to go to anymore since moving, where I happen to have a pass to see unlimited films, and I figured, since I'm here, I might as well catch something else playing while it's already paid for. And it just so happened that there was a screening of Searching starting in an hour, so that movie won the luck lottery. And holy shit, am I glad I didn't skip it! I was sleeping on this one, and I think a lot of other people probably are too. The generic title and marketing are certainly doing it no favours. Which is why I've chosen to make this review before finishing editing my review of The Nun, to try and convince as many people to see this one as I can. This takes priority. The problem is, it's a hard film to cover. With such an intricate, compelling and tightly wound mystery as its driving narrative, it's a difficult one to talk about without spoilers. And believe you me, you want to go into this one as blind as you possibly can with it, because if you're anything like me, this shit'll blow your fucking nips off. Like honestly, I'm not going to say anything that gives stuff away, but I'm almost tempted to say, turn this vid off now. Just take my word for it, and head out to see this immediately. I'm not going to spoil anything like I said, but to be honest, the best review I could give of this movie wouldn't be the one you're in the middle of watching right now, but would rather be me manically screaming at you, go see this! The people of the world need to see this! Like I'm your creepy, intense conspiracy theorist uncle who just found out his tinfoil hat was stolen by the Illuminati, and in tracking them down has discovered their headquarters. Hint, it's in the White House. But yeah, this shit is so damn good. Don't worry and think the whole told through screens thing is a gimmick, it's not. This is a fucking edge of your seat, emotional, heart-pounding thriller about a desperate man that gets you invested from the word go and utilizes its unusual delivery format to exceptional extent, making it a tool for visual storytelling that somehow can make things like the Windows XP background and Facebook Messenger screens tug at your emotions through some of the smartest, most well-thought-out writing I've seen in a long-ass time. Without giving away anything that happens, absolutely nothing in this film feels cheap. Every moment is earned. Revelations and beats that could come across as forced without proper planning work incredibly well because without you even noticing, the film has seamlessly integrated the little touches for their payoff to be successful multiple times before they happen. Purely from a writing perspective, I honestly believe this film should be studied in schools. I'm not saying it's in the same kind of ballpark as traditionally studied movies like Wong Kar-wai or Pedro Almodovar pieces or anything, but there's absolutely something to learn here from its sheer simplicity. It has a concept, it runs with it. It doesn't try to be any more complex than what the narrative needs, it tells its story through a format inherently linked to its own themes, and it doesn't waste a single line of script while doing so. It is, in my opinion, an absolute perfect execution of everything it tries to be. In fact, it does so well, it almost seems effortless. What I mean by that is that while clearly this is a very meticulously crafted piece of work that probably went through many revisions and changes to get it to be as polished as the end result ended up being, but it's so tight that it almost comes across as if this was just some miraculously spot-on first draft, because by the time the credits roll, everything that preceded them flowed so naturally and seamlessly, and everything feels so rightly in its own place that you can't imagine the film ever being anything different. Like, of course this is how it all goes down, because it's just right, you know? Like, it just feels correct. Had I been shown this film and had it broken down for me back when I was in college or university, it really would have helped me, for lack of a better term, get storytelling. The film follows the quote-unquote rules of narrative to an absolute T, and it pays off spectacularly. Let me explain it this way. So there's this concept you've probably heard of called Chekhov's gun, right? And I think a lot of people misinterpret it. It's a principle put forward by Russian playwright Anton Chekhov that seems to, at least from when I hear people talk about it, being simplified into this idea that, as Chekhov himself puts it, if in the first act you have hung a pistol on the wall, then in the following one it should be fired. Which basically people seem to misconstrue as a rather literal, if you put a gun or hammer or drugs or tool or whatever in your story, you gotta use them. Personally, I think that's only half the lesson. The real overriding principle of Chekhov's gun is about how every element of a story should feed into the whole thing. It's as much about saying that if you need a gun in your closing act, it's gotta already be in the narrative beforehand, as it is about firing it if it's there. As a concept, it's not just about watering your seeds, it's about remembering to plant them first. Searching is the absolute poster boy of this principle. Every single moment in its 1 hour and 42 minute runtime is inherently valuable to the overall production. In my opinion, there isn't a second of time wasted. Take for example the opening. I won't say what happens, but I knew this film was going to be something real fucking special when, boom! 2 minutes in, and I am absolutely in love with the family that this film revolves around. Something that a lot of films take a whole act, or sometimes even fail to do, this movie achieves in less than the time it takes to microwave a frozen pizza. And how does it do this? With a fucking Google Calendar! What? What movie? How in the blue hell do you make my eyes sweat with a fucking Google Calendar? How? And with minimal dialogue. Hot fucking damn, man. I don't know what to say. This whole thing just blew me away. There's multiple scenes where the protagonist is just doing things like scrolling through contacts or text messages or Facebook friends, and that should be boring as shit. But the film uses the surrounding narrative, lingering digital slow zooms, and this really well executed anticipation building score that moments like these had me genuinely on the edge of my seat. You could feel the atmosphere amongst the small crowd who happened to be sharing the screen with me, and audible gasps from other moviegoers often punctuated the action on screen. Also, if nothing else, we should commend this film for being one of the only Hollywood films I've ever seen that, get this, understands how the internet works. Mainstream Hollywood productions have an embarrassing track record when it comes to exploring ideas surrounding online consumption. From Slender Man's laughable efforts at depicting dark corners of the web, to Spider-Man's weird, not at all product placement reliance on the search engine Bing, to the countless obtuse depictions of hacking as some kind of super fast game in which often implied autistic side characters compete to see who can mash keyboard buttons the quickest. It is so refreshing to see a film that not only understands how we use the internet, but also explores how the uses and gratifications of apps and web services permeate our everyday lives in a way that depicts both the positive uses of it, as well as the document everything Big Brother style all-saying I system we often unknowingly volunteer ourselves into, that doesn't fall into the trappings of the almost PSA like the internet is evil and phones will kill us all preachiness that the likes of films like Megan is Missing, Chat Room, and even some really great stuff like Black Mirror often make the mistake of becoming. Its approach to our online anxieties and privacy is far more nuanced, doing things like juxtaposing small, intimate discussions with invasive news broadcasts in a way that's really hard-hitting and effective. It's a super interesting idea to explore the issues of a family struggling to communicate and connect, almost solely through tools that are explicitly used for that purpose. It's a great example of what you might call format storytelling, using the delivery method of telling your narrative as something that furthers it rather than just a system with which to get it to the audience. For me, this is what shifted an already great movie into an exceptional one, and coincidentally, this is actually the component of it I thought I was going to hate most. I had anticipated a series of awkward illogical leaps that was going to force a narrative to be told through screens rather than one that's told naturally. Like when a lot of found footage films make up clunky excuses for the camera to still be on, even in circumstances when you're like, dude, put the fucking camera away, man. You're literally gonna be murdered by Godzilla, you mad dafty. Not in Cloverfield, by the way. I actually like that film, but you get what I mean. That wasn't the case, though. Nothing in the film felt forced, and the movie came up with a lot of creative ways to tell the story through these little snippets of information in a way that not only got around these issues, but enhanced the movie's tone, making you feel like this fly-on-the-wall witness to the private events that shatter an otherwise wholesome family. It adds a level of uneasy discomfort that makes the viewer complicit in the invasions of privacy the film actively explores. And you know that's intentional choice because it's so intrinsically linked to the themes. Performances are also exceptional throughout, with John Cho putting out an extremely believable and likely pretty demanding performance as a caring and well-intentioned but occasionally out of his depth father, and the slow descent into panic, anxiety and desperation that unfolds with the film's events. This guy needs to be a leading man more often. He clearly proves here that he has the emotional range to be a full-on A-list performer. All in all, that's as much as I can say without going into the minutiae of it all. And I really, really do not want to do that because, well, just go see it and you'll see exactly why. This film is best as a surprise. And everyone involved in this production should be immensely proud of themselves, especially first-time writer-director Aneesh Chaganty, who... What? Wait, this was the guy's debut? Holy fucking shit!